Back to the Dean Obeidallah show. Very excited to have Mary Trump back on the show. Activist, psychologist, author of the New York Times bestselling book, Too Much and Never Enough, How My Family Created the World's Most Dangerous Man. And she has a great newsletter, which I get and I read all the time on Substack, The Good in Us by Mary L. Trump. Hello, Mary L. Trump. How are you, my friend?
Hello, Dean Obeidallah. Hanging in there. I'm a little sleepy.
Well, is
Um,
that a
but
family thing? Is
I,
it genetic?
yeah, I'm a little worried that narcolepsy runs in the family, but hopefully
Well,
not.
we will talk about the sleep and everything, but look, we've talked a lot in the past about before Donald was indicted, then after he was indicted, are we ever going to have a trial, all that? And the trial is here
Mhm.
and it's happening. And they've sat some jurors already. Like this is happening.
Yeah.
Just what's your visceral reaction to this?
Relief.
Hmm.
I'm quite relieved, and I'm I'm glad to see that the coverage is finally grappling with the fact that this isn't some frivolous hush money case. This is serious business. And I think the framing has been awful in the run up to it. So it's good to see that people are finally beginning to understand what he did, what this means in terms of the run up to the 2016 election and the consequences potentially. Um, and I think it doesn't really make sense to say, is this more serious? Is this less serious
Right.
than the other cases? This is the case that made it to trial. And I've thought all along that the implications of it are incredibly serious. So
Certainly.
I'm glad it's happening.
It's 34 felonies, as Alvin Bragg has said, a statement of facts lay out of the case, as the prosecution is going to talk about. This was election fraud, election interference, election corruption. What do you want to call it? It's not hush money is you want to pay because the spouse doesn't find out or someone in your relationship. This had nothing to do with that. I have no idea what the relationship is between Donald and his wife at the time, but it's still his current wife. But that's not why he paid her. That
Right.
was not an issue at all. I mean, he only paid her because it was a campaign. Donald expressly called for his supporters to come out and show their support. And it did not happen. What is your take?
I think everybody's really sick of it, quite honestly. And if you put that in the context of not one person and his family bothered to show up, uh, that tells you something about the man and the loyalty he inspires among the people who should be closest to him, his wife, his children. But I think it also shows just how exhausting it is to be called upon by this person who is so endlessly needy. Uh, and I think it was Lawrence O'Donnell who pointed out, yes, this is New York City, but New York City is an incredibly diverse place. Within an hour's drive of that courthouse, there are millions of people who voted for Donald and voted for him twice. So there's no lack of fans nearby. So he couldn't even get more than 50 people, I think, out there. Um, this is not, there's so many things, Dean, that are going to wreak havoc on his psyche throughout this process. That's one of them.
Look, it's Staten Island. It's the only borough Trump won. You could just go the UCarry tunnel from Staten Island. You're in Lower Manhattan when you get here. You're right there. That's near the courthouse. They could have had a massive march from
Yep.
Staten Island, a mega march. It didn't happen. I wonder, like, we don't know. November is far away, but you wonder, is the enthusiasm for Donald Trump not there? And is the media making it running, talking about polls all the time, as opposed to really looking at a lack of enthusiasm among Republicans and MAGA for Donald Trump?
Yeah, they need their horse race, doing a great disservice to democracy and the rest of us who kind of don't want a fascist dictator in the Oval Office. So I'm wondering if this is going to be the pivot point. Again, not because of the seriousness of the case, although that absolutely needs to be in the first paragraph of every article written about this, but because of what it's going to demonstrate about Donald when he's not in control of everything. We're already seeing it.
Mhm. So, a lot of people made light of it, of course, but I also think it's meaningful that Donald in the first 2 days fell asleep for part of a trial. This is his first criminal trial of his life. You would think he'd be riveted. So I think he has no control. I don't mean narcolepsy. It's either a side effect to a medication or he's just tired. He's an elderly man. He's 77 and maybe he naps every day. We just don't know. We don't know what he does anymore. What do you make of it?
Well, I think we can't underestimate the extent of and the depth of the narcissistic injury he's suffering. One, he's in a situation in which he has no control, and worse, he is under the control of somebody else. There is somebody else in that room with all of the authority, and he has none. So that's already problematic for him. Secondly, sorry, I can't help laughing. Just because Donald is so mean to other people, he's so insulting and demeaning that there was a bit of schadenfreude when the judge read into the record certain posts that prospective jurors had put on their social media pages. Donald invited the Thai boys to the White House, but they decided they'd rather go back to the cave, for example, and just pointing out how stupid he is, and he has to sit there and take it. This is I know this word is needs to be retired after November, but this is unprecedented in his lifetime. And it's a moment that unconsciously he's probably been dreading for the last 5.5 decades. So part of him was probably always terrified that it was going to come, but also he probably never believed it would, because he always gets away with everything. And here we are. And trust me, he understands how serious this is.
Let me ask you, as someone who knows him personally and also a psychologist, we know something about Donald. He does not like being laughed at. He wanted to cancel Saturday Night Live. He called for it to be canceled. He had tweeted about the FCC investigating them. He cannot like that. He has gone from a scary wannabe dictator to a punchline. Jon Stewart, Jimmy Kimmel, Colbert, about him falling asleep. So I wonder what is more painful for him in a way, the potential conviction or now literally being a punchline on show after show after show. An audience start laughing around the country at him for falling asleep during his trial.
Yeah, I think it's being a punchline. It's also being not accused of committing the sin of being sleepy that he's always saying that Biden is guilty of, and being trapped. I think that's a huge thing as well. Dean, one of the fascinating things about Donald as a figure in politics is the extent to which he himself is able to normalize behaviors and characteristics that we would never accept in anybody else. Like the fact that he seems to hate animals, for example. It's not just that he doesn't have pets, it's that he seems to revile animals. He's always calling people dogs or what have you, as if being a dog is a horrible thing. The fact that he has his family is not there. There's something very disturbing about that. And one of the most alarming things about it, or certainly about him, and certainly that should set off alarm bells for anybody who wants a steady, serious, well-adjusted person in the White House, is, as you point out, he has no sense of humor about himself. It is really that, and his obsession with his net worth are things that are just bizarre. And that is definitely going to take a toll. And we saw it. He posted a rant about Jimmy Kimmel hosting the Academy Awards. And that was 2 months ago.
Well, he did it because Jimmy Kimmel made fun of him last night on his show for sleeping, did a whole bunch of jokes.
Yeah.
And that's what gets under Donald's skin more than anything.
But to go back 2 or 3 months, it's that is not a well person.
No, I'm chatting with Mary Trump. I mean, Mary, do you think the fact that he's gone on trial now, and the reality is everyone knows he could be convicted here and still be elected president and still serve as president. If that scenario were to happen, do you think it makes him more motivated for revenge against everybody involved in this case, against January 6th, everything?
It's hard to imagine him more motivated, but yes, because he's already pretty motivated for revenge. He's got a list,
Right.
for sure. So if that tragedy happens, they're going to need a place bigger than Guantanamo to put all of us. It's just not
Do
going
you
to be
think you're on the
pretty.
list? Do you think you're on the list?
Totally, of course, you're probably on the list too.
I'm way down. Like you're A-team list, I think. I'm more like, see, like if you get to have time, we'll get to Dean. But
He'll get to everybody.
no, I saw a thing where Adam Schiff just recently said that he has concerns. If Trump has said if he wins, he will go after the January 6 people. And we know you have to take him literally. He's not, there's no joke. This isn't hyperbole. Hyperbole. He is saying he will, and he will. What will he do to them? I'm not sure. But I'm really concerned about Mary. For you, I think perhaps he would, to be honest, on some level. For
Mhm.
me, it's more his supporters. It's not him.
Yeah.
It's like I post something I write, and then they come for me and they feel emboldened. We have Donald back in the White House. That's my concern. They take the law into their own hands, whatever that might be.
Well, think of it this way. Um, Arresting, charging, trying, and imprisoning people for crimes they've committed, especially if they're crimes against this country, should be a deterrent. Well, if you have a maniac in the White House who's willing to pardon anybody who is committing crimes on his behalf, then yes, that's a very dangerous scenario. Right now, first of all, we still have individuals out there being inspired by Donald's stochastic terrorism and sending death threats to judges and prosecutors and their families. People are getting arrested for these crimes that Donald is inciting. But I think the reason we're not seeing any concerted group action is in part because they've seen hundreds and hundreds of people get put away in prison for many, many years. So, there is incentive not to do anything that's going to end with that result. That goes away when Donald's back in the White. He'll instead of pardoning people, he'll be rewarding people for doing his bidding. So yes, we have to make sure that this does not happen.
The promise of a pardon to the January 6 people is just to incentivize future conduct. I mean, we know
Yep.
this. I think we've even discussed this. Do you think he testifies in this case? I mean, he says he's going to testify. Do you think he does?
There was a time when I would have said absolutely not. Whenever I saw a statement he put out in which he said he was going to, I just laughed because it's just absurd. Two things, and again, I honestly can't predict either way.
Sure, I
It
understand.
kind of depends on what happens, how things in the courtroom unfold. We also have to pay attention to his out of court behavior. Is it going to be doing rallies? What are his posts, if this is even possible, going to get even more unhinged? So the reason I'm less sure than I would have been otherwise is, one, as I mentioned, he's taking this very seriously. He knows what's at stake. While it's true, as you said, he can be a convicted criminal and still get elected, his chances diminish significantly if he can be referred to as convicted criminal Donald Trump. And we need to start doing away with former White House guy because, let's face it, right now he is out on bail in 4 criminal jurisdictions, right? That's how we should be referring to him. He will almost certainly be a criminal, a convicted criminal. He knows that his entire future is riding on this. The other thing that gives me pause is this very clear evidence that the man has very little impulse control. Over the last 20 years, approximately, we've seen his ability to restrain himself diminish significantly. So those two things might create a perfect storm in which which is also going to be influenced by his undying belief that he can basically influence anything if he sets his mind to it. So I don't know what his lawyers would have to do in order to make that not happen. But I think it depends on how badly it's going, and if he thinks that he's his last best hope, which would, listen, it would be great for
Exciting.
us, but it would be devastating for him.
I'm chatting with our friend Mary Trump. It's interesting you mentioned like the idea of stop referring to him as former president and instead what he really is. It would be like referring to O.J. Simpson as Heisman Trophy winner. And that's it. Like, yeah,
Which
you
a
wouldn't
lot
do
of
that anymore.
obituaries just
You could put
cut
that in
off with the
there,
football.
right? But like, it should be about the other things that are a bit more recent, less remote.
Yeah.
In that, you mentioned though that Donald's actions might change depending on how this trial is going. If it's going really badly for him, that even he gets, and it hasn't started yet, so we don't know. But once the evidence starts going in, if it starts going badly, do you think potentially he tries to force a mistrial by outburst? Or do you think that him or MAGA people try to reach the jurors, bribes, intimidation, witnesses, bribes, anything along those lines?
Well, we're already seeing attempts to witness tampering via social media.
Yeah.
We're already seeing people floating the idea that it's perfectly patriotic to suborn perjury. So they're not going to stop at anything. I mean, I don't know the extent to which this is unacceptable, but the defense team was trolling people's social media and their spouses' social media going back years. So I'm not saying that the lawyers will do anything. Hopefully
Right.
they understand what the boundaries are. But Donald and the people who support him, I wouldn't put anything past them, and they don't deserve the benefit of the doubt. So I have to hope that everybody else in the courtroom understands the dangers. And I also believe that Judge Merchan gets it. He seems like a very serious, no nonsense man who is not going to let things get out of control. And who is going to have an iron fist in a way that Judge Engoron, for example, did not. And that could be partially because there's a jury here that needs to be taken into consideration.
No, that's great. And it really is. From a legal point of view, it is. And also the lawyers, in this case that Trump had, from what I've read about them, are well respected. One's a former federal prosecutor.
Yep.
They're not Alina Habba. Like,
this is the A team.
Right. These are real lawyers who are costing lots of money per hour, lots and lots of money. And Alina Habba's on TV literally lying about what the judge is saying. And as an attorney myself, I wouldn't be disbarred for the first time, but I would be reprimanded. She should be from the New York and New Jersey. She's admitted in both. And Rudy learned that you can't keep lying when you're representing a client about the facts. And she's doing that. And at some point, I think it'll catch up because it caught up with them. I think she's not at the point of where she'd be disbarred yet, but she should be reprimanded and potentially suspended to stop it. It's outrageous stuff. It's,
what these people get away with. And I often ask that question, like, where is the Bar Association?
Yeah.
Why do they get away with lying? It's just incredible. Like, you can't do that in a courtroom. Why can you do it on a client's behalf outside of a courtroom? It doesn't make any sense to me.
You can't. The rules of ethics, the rules that control lawyers say you can't. If you're representing someone, you have to be honest in front of the court and in front of the camera. It's the same thing. It doesn't matter. If you do it in front of a judge, you're really going to get close to being disbarred just for that. But you do it on TV, and it's remarkable. So, we've talked a lot about the media here, and the media's done some fact checking. What Democrats have not done, and it's by design, I know, because I had DNC chair Jamie Harrison on a little over a week ago, and I said, look, we know Donald Trump's going to come out every lunch, every day, every morning, say the same thing. This is a Biden orchestrated prosecution of me. It's all political. It's Biden. And I said, will DNC be responding? Have you heard anything of Democratic leaders? And he said, no, we don't want to. We're not going to. And to me, I don't want President Biden responding, but I would like the DNC, even if it's a statement every day they put out, every day that, like in this case, the investigation began in 2018 under Trump when Michael Cohen pled guilty and he implicated Donald. Like at least start there. And that all the delays were because of Donald, and Donald caused delay after delay. That's why the prosecution didn't happen even earlier. So what do you think about that? Or do you think it's not needed?
Well, first of all, I don't understand why any serious media outlet is covering his hallway rants.
You know,
I only listened to the first one because I didn't have a choice. I was in an interview and it was played for me. And the question was, how do you deal with this? Because there are so many lies. And I said, well, it's actually pretty simple. In that 2 to 3 minutes, yes, he told a lot of lies, but the simple truth of the matter is he said one thing that was true. One. Everything else was a lie. You don't have to go through everything. The truth he spoke was that nothing like this had ever happened before.
right.
Everything else was a lie. So first of all, none of it should be covered. Secondly, if it is, do what I just did or mock him. There was I saw one clip and he basically, it was one of his words. It was rigged or hoax or something like that. He repeated it like 17 times in 3 sentences. Just mock him mercilessly. And I agree with you. President Biden should be nowhere near this insanity. I also don't think he should debate Donald ever, because that's to legitimize him. But the DNC should be getting in the mud with brass knuckles on and going after him relentlessly. This whole, we're above it all approach clearly doesn't work.
It doesn't. What DNC Chairman Harrison did say is if Donald Trump is convicted of felonies and is a convicted felon, they will be, in his words, making America aware of Trump's status. So they will be doing a lot. Like convicted felon better become Donald's first name between now and November. Will that move people or not? That's the big question. We don't know. And I actually wonder, like on some level, and what do you think? Convicted felon polling shows will have an impact. I think if Donald keeps falling asleep, that cuts through everything. That cuts through. You don't have to know politics. You don't have to know anything. The guy doesn't have the stamina to be president. And the late night hosts are amplifying that in the pop culture world, reaching younger people and older people who don't pay attention. They go, the guy keeps falling asleep. How could you vote for a guy who can't stay awake? I think that's actually potentially more damaging to him.
Dean, that is such a great point, and it works on so many different levels. There's the stamina one, there's the hypocrisy one, but then you could also interpret it this way. This is a man who has so much contempt for you, jurors, and for everybody else in this courtroom, who to a person is there simply because of him. Everybody's there because of Donald Trump. He can't even keep his eyes open because he can't be bothered with it. Okay, so there's that. You can also point to the fact that he clearly thinks he's above it all because he refuses to be bound by the same rules the rest of us are bound by. He thinks he can whisper and make faces and be threatening and lie his face off in his little rants. Like nobody else can behave. First of all, not that nobody else can, nobody else would, because this is a court of law. This is a criminal court. We take these things seriously. And if he's so contemptuous of the process that he set in motion, by the way, then what business does he have? Or if he can't stay awake, what business does he have being back in the Oval Office? He has no business being back in the Oval Office. So I completely agree with you.
I agree.
Run with it, guys.
I wish the prosecution would bring a pillow and a blanket, like on a plane, and go like, Mr. Trump.
I want somebody to send him a Trumpy bear. Remember Trumpy bear?
No, did he have a bear? I don't know that. Seriously?
Oh my God. It was like the only good thing about the 2016 election. Yes, Trumpy bear, who had a little backpack that had an American flag in it. It was just, I hope it still exists. I'm sending you one, Dean.
I will take one. And I expect Donald Trump to start selling some kind of sleeping medicine, hey, Trump quill, you can't get a good night's sleep. He'll try to own it by taking, going like, I have this new product. It's Trump quill. And it's supported like, I got a great night's sleep. Don't be woke. Take Trump quill. That kind of thing. That's the reality of the world. We live in a crazy world, Mary. That's all I can say. You've got to laugh at times. Mary, look, we don't know. This could end in 5 to 6 weeks. By 6 weeks from now, Donald Trump could be a convicted felon, and that would be a remarkable development, or it could be a hung jury. He'll never get acquittal. It's either convicted or a hung jury, and we will know this in 6-7 weeks. So we'll catch up then. And Mary, if people want to check out your newsletter on Substack, should they just go to the Good in Us on Substack, or what's the best way?
Yeah, you just Google Mary Trump Substack and it'll bring you right there.
It's great stuff
Um,
because you're writing about the court things going on. I'm getting it every day. I read it. I should become a paid contributor,
nah,
paid
it's all right.
watcher, because I do take the benefits of it. So, all right, thanks, Mary. Thanks so much for being on. Have a great day.
Thanks, Dean.
Take care.